Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. This past weekend were the European International Championships and today we are going to be analyzing, looking at the results, seeing what's going on in the meta right now, looking at some usage stats like some Pokémon in particular, Fluttermane. 79%. Excuse me guys, something came over me. But anyways, we're going to start things off here. We're going to look at Paul and Gabriel's team. And guys, right now this is the core to beat. Right, these cores right here are what you're looking at. This is probably the most balanced core in the format, the most balanced teams in the format. These are what you're looking at trying to beat heading into tournaments, right? This Amoonguss, this Palafin, this Arcanine, this Fluttermane, that core of 4 specifically is absolutely massive. More often than not, it's getting rounded out by something like that Tinglu +1, but the core of 4, that Fluttermane, Arcanine, Palafin, Amoonguss is absolutely destroying the meta game right now. You're going to see it tons of time as we scroll down. We'll probably make our way to top 64 on this list, but you are going to see it a ton, and rightfully so. Quickly jumping over here because I think we have to address this almost immediately in the video, otherwise it would be a crime. But 79% usage for the Fluttermane. Now this is of every player in the tournament. 79% of them had Fluttermane. I believe there was about 770-ish players. So you're looking at roughly 608 of those 770 had Fluttermane on their team. Guys, that is insane. I don't even think Incineroar hit this high of usage stat. 79%. We are almost creeping to a point where you are hindering your own team by not having a Fluttermane on it. Granted, I don't think we're at that point quite yet, but we are getting awfully close to, if you don't have a Fluttermane, you're hurting yourself. And now the thing is, what makes it this high is Fluttermane is an answer to Fluttermane. So like, not only do you have a good Pokemon on your team, you also now have an answer to another good Pokemon on your team. So Fluttermane in itself is like that, and that might be a case why it's a little higher than Incineroar ever saw, because Incineroar wasn't really an Incineroar counter, right? It was just kind of a necessary pivot into format, whereas Fluttermane is an amazing Pokemon into format, and it kind of counters itself in a way, right? So either way, 79%, absolutely ridiculous. And look at the 3 after that, guys. Amoonguss, Arcanine, Palafin. So that whole core of 4 that I had just been talking about is literally the most used core in the form. Maybe not the most used core, but those 4 Pokemon are the most used in the format at the tournament. And more often than not, you're going to see them on the same team. So jumping back over here, we really just see Paul and Gabriel just saying, you know what, balance is the way. It's a really good team. And we're going to be the top level players that we are, and we're just going to balance on people. And that is exactly what they did. They took the balance core and absolutely showed why it is such a good core. First and second place, incredible runs for both of them. But this is the 3 and 4 slot are why I said it's not a requirement to have Fluttermane yet. Because you see these 2 Dondozo teams sneaking in at 3rd and 4th. It's a Pokemon that, myself included, kind of said, there's so many new answers to Dondozo. You know, wo-chien kind of walls it out. Grass Tinglu or Water Tinglu can kind of sit in front of it. Fissure's a problem for it. You know, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane are still around. Just a lot of answers to it. And yet here we are still seeing Dondozo have a strong showing at this tournament, right? I think there was only 3 in top 32. So you see the 2 here, and then I believe it was like 27th in Carson. Once again, yep. And something to point out, all 3 of the Dondozo teams in top 32 were the exact same 6 Pokemon. So is this the optimal Dondozo team? Possibly. Very, very possibly. At least right now, it seemingly is a super, super strong option if you're trying to run Dondozo. I think it was a really good meta call, right? Just because people are probably like, oh, there's so much answers to Dondozo. Don't really need to consider it too much. I'll just forget about it. And here's what happens when you do that. Right, obviously it didn't have like an amazing showing, but it did have less than 15% usage, right? So pretty low. I don't know the exact number on the usage stat, but still a very strong showing from Dondozo in 3rd place and 4th place here. Something else I really wanted to bring up is these 3 Goldengos just kind of chilling. You know, another Pokemon that people kind of, it was really strong at the beginning of the format, probably like leftovers of like Series 2 where Goldengo was still really good. But then it kind of died off a little. But I don't think it should have died off. I don't think it deserved to die off, right? Goldengo is still a really strong option. And just the option to potentially set up a nasty plot, before you set up a nasty plot, you can actually one-shot a 79% usage mon in Fluttermane. If you build bulky enough, they can't take you out without Terra, but chances are they're going to be specs, so you want to be tearing out of the Shadow Ball weakness. Or you can pull a Julio or a Paul Ruiz and say, I'm just going to redirect. I'm just going to redirect your Shadow Ball, and my Goldengo is just going to sit here, click Make It Rain, your Fluttermane is going to go down, and I'm just going to start putting up damage on the rest of your team. And just stuff like this is people aren't expecting, right? James decided to go for the Tailwind. I believe James had Specs Goldengo as well. And just that's something people weren't ready for. They weren't ready to deal with Tailwind plus Goldengo, right? A lot of people were just relying on their Fluttermanes to beat the Goldengo. Weren't ready for the redirection, weren't ready for the Goldengo at all. And you see that with the strong showing here, the 3 right here, right? And I definitely think Goldengo needs to be explored a bit more moving forward. I do think it's something that fell off a little bit, how do I put this, a little bit not rightfully so, you know, like it deserves to be seeing this usage, it deserves to be finding its way into top cuts because it is a good Pokemon still, right? You're still ignoring the Amoonguss, which is, by the way, still a 58% usage Pokemon, so I know we talk about a lot about the Fluttermane, right, and the Fluttermane at 79%, but Amoonguss at 58% is still right up there, still an amazing usage percentage on Amoonguss as well, right? Just such a strong Pokemon, does beat the wo-chien, just supports your pieces that are meant to be doing well. And it's just crazy to me that that's the usage is just so high on these balanced cores, right? Because generally speaking, you don't see 79% or 50 partnered with a 58, you know, it's just insane. And the core of its own, on its own is just broken. You know, you don't even need the other two. Just Amoonguss Fluttermane is really, really good. Shenpao was around. It saw some decent usage, nothing too crazy. Saw some results. Not really going to talk too much about Shenpao. It was there. Nothing really crazy. It's going to be there, you know. It's going to see its usage on teams. It's going to make its appearance. Something else I do want to talk about is Paul basically saying, hey, guys, did we forget about Mouseape? You guys forgot about Mouseape. Here I am. Now, I don't know how I feel about Mouseape. I still don't know if it's amazing into the format. But Paul made it work, and Paul made it work really, really well. Paul made it work insanely well. Obviously got top 8. So maybe it's something I should stop sleeping on. I don't think it's going to see a lot of amazing usage. I feel like it's still good, but I don't think it is going to be topping tournaments consistently. I think Paul player diffed a little bit here. I really do think Paul said, you know what? I'm going to make this work because it's a good core. And it forces a lot of reads, and Paul's like, hey, I'm just gonna put myself in positions where I'm gonna put them into spots where I'm just gonna outplay them, and that is exactly what Paul did, I believe. And it was a really good call. I think it worked out well for the tournament, right? The Ape beats most of the Ruin type Pokemon if you deal with Fluttermane well, and Paul covered that with the Goldengo mouse mode, right? So really cool team from Paul's end there. I wouldn't mind seeing it pick up in usage. I still don't think it's the best core in the format, but you might want to see it have it on your radar, so to speak. Another core I want to point out is the Gyarados Chi-Yu. And the Gyarados Chi-Yu, it's seen often on that Fluttermane Amoonguss core as a replacement for the Palafin and the Arcanine. It's basically saying I'm going to have an offensive fire type and a more defensive water type, rather than a defensive fire type and an offensive water type. And that's the core you're going to see. You're going to see it on Flavio's team here. You're going to see it on Alex Gomez's team. And it's that core of 4 once again, that Fluttermane Amoonguss that's sneaking into the metagame with Chi-Yu Gyarados. That you're gonna see, guys. It's something you're gonna see. You're gonna see it down here in 15th place as well with Luca's team, right? And then right below it, you're gonna see Nick's team with the main core of 4. It's these the Fluttermane Amoonguss Fire plus Water. It's just gonna be good all formats. So this is where the meta is heading, guys. And this is what you're gonna want to do to kind of break that. I think, in my opinion, Terra Water Goldengo and Terra Water in general does a really good job of dealing with this core and giving you turns to get through that core, right? Because Terra Water really shuts down the Palafin from being able to punch right through you, pretty much, so to speak, right? And if you have Terra Water, like you shut that down, and if you're Terra Water on something that can ignore Amoonguss, like back in Fort Wayne, I was doing this with my Arcanine. I was Terra Watering my Arcanine and kind of just sitting on the field in that matchup, trying to get burns, trying to get Flare Blitzes into the Amoonguss, right? And you can definitely still do that. I'm sure some of these teams were that. But just in general, I think there's other Pokemon out there that can Terra Water, and I absolutely sit in front of this. And I think Goldengo is one of them. And you Terra Water, Amoonguss isn't going to spore you. You have the Make It Rain to kill off the Fluttermane. Your Terra Water, so Palafin's not really breaking through you all that well. You can heal yourself up with an Amoonguss if you have that option like Julio did, right? And the Arcanine, okay, sure, I mean, it's going to flail with you if you're a Steel type, but if you prioritize Terra Water, Arcanine's not breaking you. They've all dropped Snarl now, or more of them have dropped Snarl now, I should say. And you can kind of just sit in front of things and just sit there with Terra Water, and I think Goldengo does a really good job with that because it also puts on pressure, right? My problem is when you do this with Arcanine, you lose a lot of pressure because it's like, I'm Terra Water, you can't touch me, but at the same time, once I get intimidated, I'm not really doing anything, right? Whereas Goldengo can Terra Water, but then it can Nasty Plot. It can start dropping +2, +3, Make It Rains, and that's where that output really, really comes in handy, in my opinion anyways. But I do think Terra Water is probably going to be one of the bigger things. Terra Water and trying to find a way to put pressure on with that Terra Water type is going to be that way to deal with the Palafin, the Amoonguss core, stuff like that. This is what you want to see. Now, just going to scroll through. I'm going to quickly look. I actually haven't looked past top 16, so seeing some of these other teams are going to be interesting. But once again, we've got the Alberto running this team for a while now, right? And obviously replaced Volcarona with the Chi-Yu. And once again, it's still a strong option. You get the screens, you sit behind screens, you do big damage with Roaring Moon, Garchomp, and then you have damage with, you have the bulk with the Corviknight, and then you obviously have the big damage with the Fluttermane Chi-Yu combination. It's just a really strong core, and I think you're gonna still see it. I don't know if anybody other than Alberto is actually gonna be able to make the Klefki mode work with it, but the whole Fluttermane Chi-Yu damage dealing stuff, you're gonna see, right? Murkrow seemingly is still around. I think the only reason Murkrow is still around is strictly because Prankster Tailwind and Prankster Sunny Day enable so much in this format that you're going to see it, right? Honestly, if it was just a Prankster Tailwind mon, I don't think you would see it. But I think having the options of stuff like Foul Play and Sunny Day to potentially boost that Great Tusk, make it a little bit of a, give it more of a niche over something like that Talonflame. And I think that's where you want to see that, right? A couple Scizors sneaking in. I don't know if that's a good meta call or just kind of Scizors being good. I wonder if they're actually safety goggles, because that could be something too, right? Because if you're going to try and preserve your Amoonguss with your Fluttermane with Amoonguss in front of the Scizor and I'm safety goggles, you can't do that anymore. Can't get put to sleep and start bullet punching. I start putting on pressure, right? Another thing is you could once again Terra Water your Steel type here. You don't care about Arcanine anymore. That's another option for you too. I think Scizor might see some usage now, right? Just with Fluttermane at 79%, guys, we need to see something that is going to shut that down. We need to see something that is going to shut that down, because right now it is running away with the format. You know, so having something like the Scizor to put immediate pressure and pressure Oko on it is really, really good. And I don't think people were ready for Scizor. You know, Shenpao Scizor does damage, guys. People aren't ready for it. I respect this. I respect it a lot. There's another Goldengo sneaking its way into top 32. You do like to see it. Iron Bundle, actually, I've seen it quite a few times. Just people were opting for that, hey, I want the more reliable water move in the Palafin. But Iron Bundle is still around. It actually walls out Palafin really, really nicely with his base 114 physical defensive stat. So something to look at for sure right there with the bundle. I think it's a really cool option as well. Obviously, relying on Hydro Pump absolutely sucks. But the Freeze Dry is really, really nice, right? Like Ice right now, I don't think we've ever had a format where Ice has been a better offensive typing. So I'm not against seeing Iron Bundle. It's probably going to rise a little bit in usage. And I believe it was over here as well on 15% of all the total player pool used Iron Bundle. And in fact, in day 2, it was actually 22% of the players advancing to day 2 were using Iron Bundle. So it actually had a pretty good conversion rate at that point, which is interesting to note, right? So like, it's definitely not just a lot of people are using it and then it's not going to be great, right? Like you can say the same thing for Fluttermane, right? The conversion rate here was something to consider, right? Like it was 79% usage in day 1, and then of the people that made day 2, it was still sitting at 77%. Granted, this is a lot of just because there were so many of them, but still, the conversion rate on Fluttermane is probably a little bit lower just because there's so many that couldn't make day 2, right? But it's still a really good mon, right? And like, when you see like the usage stat there, like the day 1 here, right? Like you see Iron Bundle, 15%, only 15% of the player pool used it, but in day 2, 22% of the day 2 player pool using it. That's pretty decent, right? And I believe King Gambit might have actually, King Gambit also increased right? From 15 to 20. So it's something to look at. Nothing too crazy. I don't know if King Gambit's the wave. I think we're starting to get these balanced cores that are starting to put pressure on. However, King Gambit does do well in the balance. Like, it's not something you can snooze on into something like this. It does put on a lot of pressure, and that's where their Ting Lu on these kinds of teams helps balance that one out and just finish off those Baxcaliburs. Finish off those King Gambits, right? Because realistically speaking, Arcanine doesn't want to come unless it can burn it, because otherwise you're going to give it the Defiant boost. Amoonguss can't really do too much to it, but sometimes they run up for Lumberry or Safety Goggles as well. Palafin can hit it pretty hard, but it also can't one-shot it, and because of that, like, you can go for like Assurance after they wave crash and get the double damage Assurance, and then obviously you just one-shot Fluttermane. So it's definitely something to keep in mind and something you're gonna see. Especially, you can see it right here as I'm talking about King Gambit. Here we go. We're getting into the King Gambit mode, and it's just what you're gonna see. You know, you're gonna see it. It's a nice attempt to knock off some of these Fluttermanes and some of these balance cores, especially if they're scared to bring in the Arcanines into you, or if you have a way around getting Will-O-Wisp. And I think it's a cool option. Dreadnought was really cool to see. We saw this on stream in day 2. Or was it day 1? Might have been the end of day 1. Might have been the end of day 1 versus Aaron. Really cool. Really cool. I do want to point out it was actually mixed Terra Water Life Orb Dondozo, so you had Surf and Wave Crash with Sleep Talk. And I think that's cool because a lot of people's answers to Dondozo are, I'm going to put it to sleep. Well, joke's on you, I'm going to surf. Right? Or joke's on you, I'm going to Sleep Talk, and then I'm still going to get my damage up, and trying to maneuver around that is really, really, really difficult. Right? There's another King Gambit. Abomasnow, seeing its spot, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Abomasnow. I want to say it's not good, but then again, setting snow and boosting the defense of your Iron Bundle is really interesting, right? It definitely gives you an option. And I think it being the only snow setter in the game makes it so that it might have a little bit of a niche if you're trying to do Blizzard Iron Bundle stuff, because Blizzard Iron Bundle does hit really, really hard. So definitely something to keep an eye on. It might see some usage increase, but I think you're going to see exactly what we saw here. Just one in every now and then you're going to see a Abomasnow team do well. Just, I don't think it's like, oh my goodness, Abomasnow is the Pokemon you guys need to be trying to beat these cores, you know? More standard back stuff. Another Dondozo, nothing too crazy here. This is more of a balanced Dondozo thing, which I think is kind of cute. Don't know how to really play it. I haven't really analyzed it too much, but like, kind of cool. The speed boosting, I don't know if they actually had Order Up and actually utilizing that speed, which is kind of cool, but that's something to keep in mind. Colin's team with a Rotom Wash. Is Rotom Wash the first electric type we've seen that's not Iron Hands? Because that is insane to me. Because I don't know where the electric types are, guys. They're just kind of gone. It's just Iron Hands. I love how I just skipped right over Orthworm. I didn't even talk about it. That's my bad. That is my bad. The ID body press is definitely something to consider. I will get back to that in a second. But yeah, no, there's no other electric types. Rotom Wash in 40th is the first electric type outside of Iron Hands, which is absolutely insane to me. But I love how I just casually skipped over Orthworm. Where was it? 20th something? Yeah, 28th. And Kutash had a really cool team, and I think ID Body Press is another good way to deal with this Fluttermane core, especially on a Steel type, because you use your Steel type, you kill the Fluttermane, and then you got your Iron defenses up, and you wall out the physical threats. And the Fluttermane is more often than not one of the only special threats, so you kind of deal with that. And ID Body Press mons, I think, are gonna start seeing a lot of usage pick up. I think you're gonna start seeing them. Where were we exactly? We were here with the Rotom Wash. That's right, 44th. Cool team by Colin. I don't know if it was like Howl or anything like that, but I do Colin once again with that Goldengo. You're gonna start seeing it, guys. So surprising amount of usage for a Goldengo in this tournament. Like, it definitely is still really good. Another Dondozo. Chuppa's been running Dondozo forever. Once again, that's that same Dondozo core that got third and fourth. So definitely something to consider, right? Where are we? Yo, Belly Bolt, just random Belly Bolt. Hey, electric type, you know what I'm saying? These electric types, I think they're gonna start seeing usage because finding those ways to one-shot that Palafin is really gonna start being important now, I think, right? Because it's like it's gonna be on a lot of teams. Gyarados is the replacement for it. You might as well hit them. And if bulky water types are gonna start becoming the answer to that balance core, well, now you can beat those bulky water types because you've just got the electric type, right? So I don't know if Belly Bolt is the wave, but it's cool to see. Random Mimikyu here. I think Mimikyu has options. I think it's cool. I just don't see a reason to run Mimikyu over Fluttermane. But Jorge here decided, you know what, Mimikyu and Fluttermane. Fairy Ghost is so good, I'm running 2 of them. Hey, it worked. It's kind of cool. I like seeing it. We're going to stop here around top 64, but nothing too crazy. Sandy Shocks. Shout out to Jeremy with the Sandy Shock. Pretty cool mon. Once again, just another cool electric type that I think you're going to start seeing electric types find their way into this format, right? They've been gone. They've been virtually non-existent, right? Is this the first wo-chien? Is this the first wo-chien? It very well might be. It very well might be. You got random hard trick room sneaking its way into as well, right? And it's one of those ones, if you can find the matchups where people aren't prepped for hard trick room, you're finding your way, you're going to have a good day, right? And really cool to see it make a showcase here. Like, it looks like it has some damage output. Like, it does a good job at breaking that balance core if they don't have dedicated ways to get out of trick room, or if they play poorly with their Ting Lu, because you can kind of sweep them. You know, you get that trick room up, and then you start going crazy with eruptions, and you start getting Iron Hands to do some damage to that Palafin. It's a really tough core for that balance to overwhelm. But the problem is you need to do it in your turns of trick room, and the moment balance finds that way to shut it down and is well played balance, it really kind of gets through trick room without too much pain. Garganical, probably the first Garganical we're gonna see here. Probably one of the few ones we're gonna see. Still around, still gonna be a mon maybe to keep on your radar, but it's something. And seeing one wo-chien in all of top 64, guys, I don't think I could have said it any better than play Pokemon, and that's live wo-chien reaction, and it's just nowhere to be found, guys. Just wo-chien just isn't here. It's just not here. It's just not being used. Like, yeah, you see one in top 64. It is by far the Ruin Legendary that is just not being used the most. It is, once again, it's seemingly another Tapu Bulu. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's outclassed. Let me rephrase that. Right? Amoonguss is the better support. Yes, you're not getting the immediate, like, the pseudo intimidate that's on the field entirely. But one, with Amoonguss, you're not hindering your own attack stat. And two, you have that redirection. And I think the redirection, in addition to that Pollen Puff to beat the opposing wo-chien if it's there, just makes Amoonguss that much better. The redirection is key, though. The redirection, just being able to preserve your partner pieces in a format like this where there are some things like the Fluttermane that's doing massive damage with a Moonblast. Just being able to redirect that away from your partner and getting your own potential Moonblast, your own big Shadow Ball off is just really, really more valuable than the slow passive chip damage of the Leech Seed and the overall field effect. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap this one up here, guys. The meta is shifting. I'm really excited to see where we go to try and break Fluttermane. Obviously, it's 79%. I'd like to see that drop a little bit. I do think it's a really good Pokemon. I do think we should be seeing it on a lot of teams. It's just, you know, this core right here, this core of 4, this is the name of the game right now. How do we break this? I still think bulky water types are a really cool option. Bulky water types that can put some pressure on are really cool. So maybe even electric types like turning into Terra Water could be really cool, as long as you can put some pressure on Fluttermane as well. Iron Defense body press stuff could be cool because you can kind of sit in front of Arcanine, especially if you go like Terra Water. Once you kill the Fluttermane, this isn't touching your Iron Defense body press mod. Like, the best they're doing is putting it to sleep. It's not touching it, right? Even the same thing, unless they're running Fissure, I mean, which some of them actually have been dropping, right? You get the ID of Iron Defense body press in front of that, it's not getting through you. You get it up in front of this, it's not getting through you, right? So like these top 6 usage don't really love the ID body press. Obviously Fluttermane can break through it. Actually, you break through it pretty well, so you got to be careful of those, but I think it's an option. With that, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. 79% usage is absolutely insane. If you guys do enjoy the content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It does help out the channel a ton. I do appreciate that. With that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you all so much for checking out the video, and I will see you all in a future video.